This is the Arlington County Board of Equalization hearing. There are 3 members present, myself, Mr. Gates, and Mr. Penaranda for a quorum, and we have 4 cases on the agenda. I'm going to ask Mr. Demore if you would just turn your camera off until your case is called. There we go. Okay, so the first case we're going to hear is the 3rd one on the agenda, RPC 030666093, 4150 North Old Glebe Road. So Mr. Huffman, you can start with your 8 minutes and tell us about this property, sir.
Great. Well, thank you, everybody. And is it okay if I present on my screen?
Absolutely.
All right. I appreciate everyone's time. I'll go ahead and do the screen share. To screen share. Oh, not that one. I just want to share my PowerPoint. Okay. Hopefully you all can see this. Let me just get a quick confirmation. Is this sharing?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you again. Sorry about that. My name is Phil Huffman. I live at 4150 North Old Glebe with my wife and 3 children. You know, this is the first time I've requested, I guess, an appeal to my property assessment here in Arlington. We've lived here for the last 5 years and really enjoy living here. And I just wanted to take you through why I think, you know, there might be opportunities to address the valuation. Obviously, I can roll through the market conditions. I know you all are probably very familiar with that, right? The last 18, 24 months, interest rates have pushed values down. There are fewer transactions, increasing data variability. Buyers are pickier in the market, and you know, I think the takeaway from my obviously anecdotal but real estate agent connections are saying that folks are very picky, but when they do want a property, you know, they make that plunge into the market if it's really what they want, given the increased interest rates and the prices that are still relatively high. So those are just sort of general market conditions that, you know, I've noticed. I'm sure you all have seen that in the last 18 to 24 months as well. This is a historical review of my assessments over the last 5 years. The last one on the bottom right being, you know, the big jump, right? And the reason why I'm looking for relief and appeal. So, you know, over 11%. Based on my research over the last several months before this meeting, I noticed there were never really any properties I could find, even in my neighborhood, with that level of an increase, right? And I know, you know, I live in a desirable neighborhood in Arlington, and that was one thing I wanted to point out, was that there were, in my research, I was not able to find anything with that level of an increase. Yes, there were 7, 8, 9% increases, but nothing to my knowledge over 11%. I wanted to call that out. The key part of my, I think, argument here is that I hope you would consider the negative influences that surround my property. We are basically, our backyard is the parking lot of Walker Chapel, and historical data in Arlington, but also nationally, shows that there's a discount for properties that are adjacent to parking lots. Along with the parking lot, we are adjacent to the Walker Chapel Cemetery. Now, there's very difficult to pull data because there's not very many cemeteries in Arlington, and you know, researching that would take an immense amount of time. But generally speaking, there's stigmas in the market about properties near a cemetery. So there's negative perceptions, usually among buyers, to purchasing that kind of a lot. After working with Patrick, he you know, informed me about the pipe stem lot consideration. I believe that's already accounted for. So I appreciate that that was, you know, a consideration in the current assessment. I don't know how much time I have. I know there's probably only a few minutes left, but I wanted to call out one of the properties in particular that I noticed in my research that fit a lot of the criteria needed to sort of be an example for you know, for the board and just in general for assessments. I think I have the property up here. It's in the same zip code. It's not, you know, exactly in the same neighborhood, but it shows the same square footage, or close to the same square footage in a more trafficked area, and also it's near a cemetery on Langston Boulevard, obviously a small cemetery. And that property, despite similar age, size, and those considerations, it had only increased 1.5% year over year, whereas mine increased 11.3. So I know I'll wrap up here. I don't know what my countdown is, but that's one of the properties I wanted to, show and provide an example to you all. Hopefully you can consider that. And, I appreciate the time, given to me today, and, look forward to hearing from you. So with that, I'll try to figure out how to stop sharing and let you all have the floor.
Okay. All right, thank you. Mr. Pataluna for the county, please.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, board. So homeowner did decline the interior inspection. We performed an exterior inspection on February 7th of 2025. The Pellant's property neighborhood of 503011 increased on average of 8.11% due to the sales that occurred within the neighborhood. The Pellant's property did increase 11.2% due to these sales also. A negative 10% pipe stem adjustment has been accounted for on the property's land value on the 2025 assessment. Appellant's property was purchased in 2020 and had an ASR of 100% in the 2021 assessment, which showed no further adjustments were needed. Appellant's concerns of the graveyard lowering value of the home was reviewed and found no viable data could be found that shows the need for adjustment at this time. Appellant's BOE comps were reviewed and averaged 2.4 miles from the appellant's property itself, with none of the comps within the same neighborhood as the appellant. None of these comps that were submitted were sales comps from the most recent assessment also. Comparables listed on pages 5 and 6 show the appellant's property assessment is in line within its neighborhood. Comparables 4 and 5 themselves, which are assessment comps, increased on average. Comparable 4 increased 10.1% and comparable 5 increased 11%. It is recommended that the 2025 assessment be confirmed at $2,044,900. This amount can be confirmed as fair and equitable based on the sales analysis that was done for the area.
Okay, thank you both. Questions from board members? No? Okay, Mr. Panoranda?
Yeah, just one question to Mr. Pataluna. Is there any adjustment on the land, considering that the lot is located on the rear, being pretty much called in many places like a flag lot?
So the only adjustment for the land itself is for the pipe stem. That's the only adjustment that we have, and that's the only adjustment that we have seen that is needed. Besides that, there's been no need for anything else.
Has there been any other property in the county that that had any adjustment based on that being on the rear of another property?
For the rear, are you talking about for like a graveyard?
No. Being that it's, I guess, behind somebody else's, what I'm thinking, it's a flag lot, like in many jurisdictions, you will see an adjustment based on that, but I'm not sure if Arlington does that.
I don't believe so. Based on my knowledge, I do not believe there is. Andrew or George might know otherwise, but based on what I know, no.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I have a question. Mr. Huffman, why did you not allow the interior inspection?
So at the time, we had a family member recovering from prostate surgery, and I also have a special needs child that is, I guess, just clinically fragile. So we just decided to hold off on any sort of interior inspection. I've never done this before, so it's a little bit new to me, and I just was being extra cautious with our family members.
Yeah, this is difficult when you're arguing a case and they haven't seen it. So, okay, other questions? No, Mr. Pataluna, if you take a minute to wrap up then.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So again, based on the comps that we have provided as the county, the assessment value of 2,044,900 could be considered fair and equitable, and we recommend that it be confirmed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Huffman, if you take a minute to wrap up, sir.
Yeah, I appreciate the board's time. I think my only, I think consideration here is that the parking lot is not being taken into account. I understand that it's hard to pull data on the limited amount of cemeteries adjacency to that, but the parking lot is a data point that I think would be more common and could be applied. So I just request, or I guess suggest or ask kindly that that would be something that could be considered.
Okay, thank you both. All right, it's just among the 3 board members. Where's everybody? Mr.
Well, I'll
Penaranda?
start. Yeah, I mean, that was the only concern that I had in reference to being, where the lot is located. But, I wouldn't feel comfortable making an adjustment based on that, considering that there's really no indication. And I know we've seen other lots like that, but I don't think that issue came up that it would affect the value. Most of the time, it will probably affect to a builder, when they purchase the lot and stuff like that. But in this case, I don't have enough to really justify a reduction based on that. So I'm okay with the assessment the way it is.
Yeah, I would agree. And I don't think the sales support a lower price backing up to the cemetery. And, as for the difference in the percentage of the other comp that the appellant provided, I mean, it's difficult to look at without knowing more details on the house and what the actual price was and whatnot, rather than just the, fine tuning in on the percentage. So I'm okay with the assessment. Mark, anything different?
No, I'm okay with it in looking at it. That the church, the cemetery, etc., were there day one. They've been there all along with this house when they bought it and before, and the values have been set reflecting that. The interior, we don't know. We don't know what upgrades have been done in any way. The percentage, I don't think's that far, that out of line, given the situation.
Okay. All right, then I'm going to move to confirm the county. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Mr. Penaranda, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. The county is confirmed at the 2,044,900. Thank you both.
Thank you, board.
Thank you.
Rosa, who do we have next? Do we have the Kretchtings?
I'm checking. No, it was Mr. Demore.
No, Mr. Bruce either?
No, not yet.
Okay, all right. I believe we saw there's Mr. Demore. Okay, so do we have Mr. King? Yep, we do. Okay, so then the next case that we're going to hear is the 4th one on the agenda, and let the record show that Mr. Mendez has joined us for the rest of the meeting. The RPC is 02088-020 at 2628 North Glebe. Mr. Demore, you can start with your 8 minutes and tell us about this property.
Great. Thank you for the opportunity to be with you this morning. I just wanted to make it very brief, and I won't use the 8 minutes. First, the comparisons that you used are not very comparable. They're more than a half a mile away in a secluded neighborhood that's very quiet. Our development is on Glebe Road at the corner of Glebe and 26, North 26. Very busy street, very loud, and we're adjacent to a parking lot, if that matters to you, the St. Mary's Church parking lot. So I don't think the comparisons are appropriate in my opinion. Second, in these kinds of townhouse developments, the end units, I hope you would agree, the end units are more desirable and command a higher price. the interior, because of the lighting, the additional windows, the interior units command a lower price and are less desirable. And so our unit's an interior unit. And when I looked at what was happening to the assessments on several of our neighbors who are interior units, their assessments were actually reduced, as I noted in my appeal. And all I'm asking for is a similar reduction to what my neighbors have. Um, I was not present when the gentleman wanted to come into our home. I was out of town and I talked to him and he said, because of what you're appealing, I don't think it's really necessary to do an interior review. Our interior is not any different than my two neighbors who had a reduction in their valuation. So I'd ask consideration just for a minor $20,000 reduction, just to be fair and equitable with my home, with my specific neighbors. Because otherwise, I can't figure out why you would reduce my neighbors' valuations, but not mine. And their homes are almost exactly the same. I'll be glad to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. King for the county, please.
Sure. Good morning, board. The subject property is a 2.5-story center unit townhouse with a finished basement and a basement garage. The subject property is in the townhome neighborhood of Rixey View, which has 14 townhomes total. The appellant was concerned that 3 of the units in the neighborhood saw decreases in assessment value for 2025, while most of the other units stayed the same. There was only one sale during the analysis period for this neighborhood, which came in at a 99.4% assessment to sales ratio, which indicated to us that no change was necessary to the land or the LM for the neighborhood for 2025. The end units do have an LM difference of 8 points higher compared to the center units, as seen on page 15. So 2 units that are exactly the same, if they're end units and center units, will cost out differently. The end unit will cost out higher just by virtue of being an end unit. The 3 parcels that the appellant pointed out saw slight changes in improvement value as they entered new depreciation bands, which are determined by the effective ages set for these properties. So the effective ages control what band they enter into and out of. So it depends on which effective age a property has. So this will change and be different for each unit as it has a different effective age set for it. The owner did decline an inspection of the property, but we did try and do some research to ascertain any corrections that needed to be done. We found that there was a plumbing permit, which changed the fireplaces from wood burning to gas, and there were some slight square footage changes that were made to the record. These changes led to a slight reduction in value. The comparables, there was only one sale for the neighborhood, so we did go a little bit farther out to find 2 other similar style townhomes nearby. This area doesn't have many townhomes compared to some of the other areas of the county. So we did provide 3 fairly similar comparables for high-end townhomes. There was a slight, these changes that we made led to a slight reduction in value, and the department recommends a reduction to the 2025 assessment from $1,311,100 to $1,309,600. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. Questions from board members? Mr. Mendez.
For the county, was the reduction based on the conversion of the fireplace? Is that the only thing that changed that reduced the value?
Let's hold on one second. That just reduced the value would be, was just the fireplace changes.
Interesting. So gas is less valuable than wood burning?
Correct.
Is that the county stance? Okay.
And I'm sorry, I thought you said, Mr. King, that there was a square footage change.
There was a square footage change, but it went up in square footage. So 2 competing, some of the square footage went up, the fireplaces went down. Overall, it went down.
Okay. Other questions, Mr. Yates?
To the county, the appellant brought up the fact that distance of the comparables from his property, the fact they're on Glebe versus more out in a more urban, suburban area. How do you address that? I know that it's technically still in the same neighborhood.
I mean, so the specific unit that the owner lives in is not on Glebe. It has a Glebe Road address, as all the units in the neighborhood do, but it doesn't back up to Glebe. You know, what was the other, the concern was a parking lot, the
The
subject property also doesn't back up to the parking lot.
comparison to the other comps and the distances,
Sorry.
you know, did you discuss that with him or?
I only spoke to the homeowner once when we tried to set up the initial inspection, and then I had explained the depreciation bands. But this area is, you know, fairly light in terms of townhouses, especially high-end townhomes. As you get north in the county, there just aren't a lot of examples to find in some of these areas.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Mr. Penaranda? Turn your microphone on, sir.
Sorry about that. Yeah, this is to Mr. King. Was the reduction already done, or are you asking us to reduce it? Because I don't see that the reduction is shown on the property card.
This was strictly a BOE case, so it is up to the board first. There was no original review case to set the new value.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I saw a letter sent to the owner on March 27th showing the revised, but I wasn't
They can
sure.
accept that revised value,
Okay,
and then the board case goes away. Otherwise, it goes to the board, and you all make the decision.
okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. King, if you take a minute to wrap up then.
Sure. Without comparables submitted by the appellant and without any changes that we can make by going into the property, we did the best we could to make any corrections to the record that we could find. The only changes that were done to the neighborhood were slight depreciation changes for some of the units. Overall, there was no change, which the subject property had. So again, we recommend a reduction to the new value of $1,309,600. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Demore, if you take a minute to wrap up, sir.
Yeah, I would just say, number one, these buildings were all built at the same time, and we're within 100 yards of Glebe Road. It is loud. I would say the sirens are disturbing on a regular daily basis, and we are next to a busy church parking lot. So I would say we're very different in environment than the two of the three comparisons, which I think is a bit unfair. The building was all built at the same time. I don't understand why the depreciation adjustment would occur for one home and not for all the homes in that building, which two of them received lower assessments. So I'm just asking to be treated fairly and equitably like others. That's all. So thank you.
Okay, thank you both. Okay, it's just among the board. Where are folks? Mr. Mendez.
Sure, I'll start. I think the first comparable, of course, is probably the best one because it's the closest to the subject property. But if you take a look, the subject property has the highest effective age out of not just the first comp, but all the comps. It also has just almost 600 square feet more than comp one. So based on that, I don't see anything that I can grab onto to try to reduce it further.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Well, I think the adjustments that the county spoke of were made more for, on the other comps, more for the effective age as opposed to what the appellant's stating is when they were all built. It's the effective age that was what caused the adjustments. And who had what upgrades, what dates, and when. And that's what I hope he understood. But I'm fine with it at this point.
Okay, would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll go ahead and move that we reduce the assessment to the suggested amount of $1,309,600.
Have a second? And Mr. Mendez, all in favor? Aye. Okay, it is unanimous, 4-0. The county's revised number of 1,309,600 has been confirmed. Thank you both. Rosa, I see we have somebody else has joined. Who do we have?
Somebody joined with a phone number, but
Yeah,
Okay, I
this is
see.
John Crecton. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear
Can
you.
hear? I'm trying to join on Teams and I can't see the meeting or hear anything, so I called. I don't know if I've been admitted to the Teams meeting or not, but I just want to make sure that I get my chance to speak.
Sure. Do you want to try to log out and then log back in? And Rosa, do you want to try and let him in? And we can move to Mr. Bruce.
Yes,
All right.
ma'am.
All right, I'll log out.
Okay, and then
Leaving.
we'll hear the other case. And then if you can't log in, then you can do it via the phone then.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so we have
Okay,
Mr.
I'll
Bruce
just-
and then do we have Ms. Cunha?
I'll stay on the phone because for some reason or other, I don't think it's letting me log in.
Right, but you have to
all
mute
right.
though, so that we don't hear you.
Okay, I will.
Okay, so the next case we're gonna hear is the second on the agenda, RPC 070350010 at 1409 North Buchanan Street. Mr. Bruce, you can start with your 8 minutes and tell us about this property, sir. Can turn your microphone on. I can't hear you. Rosa,
Yes, ma'am.
is there something? I can't
I
hear him.
Yeah, I can't do anything. That's him over there, but probably with technical issues.
Mr. Bruce, we can't hear you. Can you hear us? Mr. Bruce? I can't hear you.
You need to let
Call
me
me
in.
now. He's calling.
Can you hear me?
All right, say something, Mr. Bruce. Let's see if we can.
I am talking, but I have to fix can you hear me now?
Okay, I can hear you now. Okay, so reset the
Okay, I
clock.
had to dial in by phone because I
Okay,
could not
we got
connect
that.
my
Okay,
via
hold on.
sent you multiple text messages in the chat.
Yeah, well, we're having a hearing. I can't be reading those. Okay, so we're
Well,
gonna go
I
ahead.
understand, but chat is part of Teams, and you have to look at the chat when people
Okay,
are having problems
Mr. Bruce,
with your technology. Sorry,
Bruce.
but
we're gonna reset your clock at 8 minutes and you can start and tell us about your property, sir. Rosa,
my
reset the
property-
clock, please.
Yes, ma'am. Already did.
Go ahead, Mr. Bruce.
So my property is 1409 North Buchanan Street. My issue is, and I've sent the board and zoning copies of a easement that was not recorded on my plat done in 1964. I'll also add that the easement does not show the as-built condition either, and the county has not provided me the as-built conditions. But that easement has pipes going underneath my yard in the backyard, and I've shown you a letter from DES that says I cannot put any structures, a shed, a tree, or anything in the back of my yard. So that impacts my by right use of the property, which should, and I've also shown you photos of flooding that has occurred due to the lack of maintenance of county facilities, also documented by DES, since they have a major project planned for North 15th Street to put in stormwater infrastructure. But those two conditions, again, reduce my ability to the by right use of my property. I have not been able to find any other county properties where people brought this to the notice of the board, or properties with similar conditions that I could do an assessment. Again, the data is just not there. I am not a real estate professional. I don't have online access to all the property records to do with this type of a search. But it, from those two things, my use of my property has been impacted by this easement. And I did send you the letter, an email from it was Elizabeth Thurber, Eileen Windcrest, stating those conditions, and my inability to now replace a tree I have to take down, which is a large shade tree, or put a shed or other structure on my rear of my property. So I think I should be allowed some type of additional modification to the land assessment because of those conditions.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ms. Cunha for the county, please.
Good morning, board. So an exterior inspection of the property was conducted. The homeowner did not want an interior inspection and was okay with the assessment of their improvement. The appellant did provide a plat to show the stormwater easement on their property, but at the time of the exterior inspection, no drainage issues or flooding were seen. So if you look at the map on page 11 of the BOE packet, which I provided, or which was provided, it will show stormwater utility lines that run through a lot of properties in the county. And at this time, there is no adjustment for having such an easement or any other easement for that. So for example, the appellant's next door neighbor has stormwater easements lines in the front and back of their home, and they still managed to add an addition to their property, and the subject has also been able to have renovations to their property with the presence of this easement. And in 2021, the homeowner also reached out to the department about a drainage issue. The previous appraiser saw evidence of repetitive flooding, and a negative 5% adjustment was applied to the land, and it's still there up until now. So the department did add 2 assessment comps on the same street as a subject to show that the subject is not being treated the same as other parcels that do not have drainage issues. Lastly, there's no difference in market value between homes that have stormwater easements and those that don't. So with the data from the sales and neighborhood analysis, and that adjustment that's been applied, it is recommended that the 2025 assessment be confirmed at $1,087,700. This amount can be confirmed as fair and equitable. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. Questions from board members? No? Mr. Penaranda or Mr. Yates?
No, I don't have any question. Just
Okay,
comments.
any final comments, Ms. Cunha?
So the department does acknowledge the drainage issues on the property, which is why we have the negative 5% adjustment, negative 5% adjustment on the land, and we believe that is fair at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bruce, if you take a minute to wrap up, sir.
Yeah, I was going to say that 5% adjustment was done not because of the pipes, but because of a manhole cover in the rear of my property that splits between my property and my property. So the adjustment for 5% was actually done for that time, knowledge and having the documentation on water pipes was not available, either by me or the county assessor.
Okay, thank you both. All right, it's just among the board. Where is everybody? Mr. Mendez.
Sure. I looked at the second to last page in the packet there, and as you can see, the neighbor, I think it's 1413 North Buchanan Street, has, like the county stated, easements in the back and the front, and they were able to put an addition on. So, and looking at, they're also using that property as comparable number 5. Looking at that property, there's no sort of adjustment for drainage or anything like that. So the subject property is getting a 5% drainage issue that the neighbor's not getting. And it doesn't seem to be an issue for the neighbor as far as building. So I would be okay with the assessment the way it is.
Right, the other issue, just that, one, we can't go back in time anyway, we're only limited to this year. But, this easement appears to have been recorded, and entered into in July of 1961. If the appellant wasn't aware of it when he closed, and it wasn't disclosed on his title work, I would think that would be a claim to the title insurance. But I'm gonna suspect that it probably, was on there, since it does involve multiple lots.
It is all.
I'm sorry, Mr. Bruce, it's just among the
No,
appellants, or I'm sorry, it's just among the board. You can't talk now.
Okay, but you're making a claim
Okay,
that's
Mr.
untrue.
Yates,
No, you're
Well,
making
I
an
think what the
Mr.
appellant,
not
could
upheld
we
by
mute him,
fact.
please?
I think what the appellant did acknowledge is that he had the 5% on there because there was a manhole on the back of the property. Well, to have a manhole, you pretty much assume that there's plumbing underneath it, and it went through there. I think, so it's not just for the manhole. Maybe, I don't know how that was originally stated. I have to look back in the deed, but the 5%'s there. It relates to the drainage. He acknowledges the manhole and the existence of the situation.
Yep, I agree. Okay, would somebody like to make a motion?
Sure, I'll move that we
Mr.
can.
Mendez,
Yeah, I'll move to confirm the county's 2025 assessment at $1,087,700.
okay, do I have a second? Mr. Yates, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. The county's assessment of $1,087,700 has been confirmed. Thank you both. Okay, Mr. Kretching, were you able to get on? Are you joining us by phone?
I'm gonna have to join by phone. I cannot join through Teams.
Okay. All right, and we have Ms. Telleria on for the county. So the last case is, and Mr. Bruce, I'm going to ask you to turn your camera off, please. Rosa, can you turn his camera off, please? Thank you. Okay, the last case is RPC 1700790, 1615 North Queen Street. So Mr. Kretching, you can start with your 8 minutes and tell us about your property, sir.
Okay, I have to ask, does the board have in front of them my response to my appeal that came back that I wrote?
I'm sorry? Yes, we have your case.
Okay, well, all right. There's two typos that, to make this thing clear, has to be made. On the second line, under where it says my unit 305, that should be 505. You can make that correction. And also on the next line where it says my unit 305, it should be 505. Okay, so when the board or when the county denied my appeal, they used a comparison that I think was sort of like apples to oranges. They were similar units, but they were not exact units. And my unit 505 is an exact replica of units 205 and 305. In other words, they're the same square footage, the same floor layout, the same building, the same appliances. If you walked into any of those units, those three, with no furniture in it, you wouldn't know which unit you were in. So knowing that we're talking now exact units, not similar units, my assessment came out to $919,700. Unit 205 is assessed at $890,900. That's a difference of $28,800 less than my unit. Unit 305 is assessed at $874,700, which is a difference of $45,000 less than my unit. So based on a comparable basis, it doesn't seem that my assessment is fair or equitable. The other thing, just as a point, my unit, 505, should have decreased 22,500, while rather than increasing it. So let me start all over. Let me get this right. My unit increased by $27,600 from 24 to 25. Unit M205 decreased by $22,500, and unit M305 decreased by $27,600. If you take that difference between my increase and their decrease, it's in excess of $50,000, again, for exact same units, not comparable units, but exact same units. So what I'm proposing is that my unit should be appraised at the midpoint between M205 and 305, which is $882,000. So that's again, I'm going back to my comparison, or my I guess my comparison is for exact same units, not for units that might be similar. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Telleria for the county, please.
Yes, good morning. So the subject is unit M505 at the Worcester Mercer Lofts condominium in Roslyn. It's a 1-bed with den with 2 baths at 1,365 square feet. For the 2025 analysis, there was only one valid sale at Worcester Mercer. We only had the sale of unit M204, and that sold for $1,263,000 in February of 2024. It did have a high assessment to sales ratio at the time of 1.04, and based on this sale, we decreased all of the model base values 3%. But also for 2025, we did conduct a floor study for Worcester Mercer. It was part of a restructuring effort to equalize all of the units in this condo. We've had appeals in the past related to equalization issues, and we were happy to finally have concluded this study. So floors are now equalized amongst units. Prior to the floor study, the subject was the only unit without a floor adjustment, meaning its floor value was 0. And everybody else on the 5th floor at the Mercer building had adjustments ranging from $40,000 to $60,000. The subject has other neighbors in the Mercer building that are right next to it on the 5th floor, and he was the only one with no adjustment. And in order to make sure that there was more equalization with units on the same floor, a lump sum value was created depending on what floor you were. For the 5th floor at the Mercer building, the units received a new adjustment of $50,000, and the subject was included in this new adjustment. 4th floor units at the Mercer building received a floor adjustment of $40,000. 6th floor units above the subject at the Mercer building now have a floor adjustment of $80,000 if they're split level. So by creating one standard floor adjustment for each floor, neighboring units are now equalized within their floors, even if they're different models or sizes. So as you saw, there were a few assessment comparables to show neighboring units. We included unit M503 right next to the subject. It's a 1-bed with den, 2 baths, 1,488 square foot unit, and that's currently assessed at $989,600. Also included in there was unit M405 directly below the subject, is exact same model and size, and that's currently assessed at $919,700. Given the fact that there was only one sale during the analysis, we took a look at late sales in consideration for the following year just to see if there's anything in the market. There was one late sale. It did close recently in January of 2025. Although this was not considered as far as any new market value changes, we look at to see how our current assessment is doing right now. This sold for $1,035,000. So 1-bed, 1.5 bath, 1,421 square feet. It's currently assessed at $887,600. So there are only 3 units of the subject's model. The last sale we saw for the same model as the subject was from a sale in September of 2021, when unit M305 sold for $870,000. That's currently assessed at $874,700. So basically, even with its new floor adjustment, the subject has the lowest assessment of a single level unit on the 5th floor at the Mercer building. It is equalized with units next to it and below it. And recent sales do show that our new adjustments are in line with fair market value. The appellant did list comparables M205 and 305, which were reduced. These units did not have and still do not have floor adjustments. M205 does have a premium value for its patio of $15,000. And yeah, basically these units only saw the base value reduction for 2025 and are equalized with the subject. M305 is currently assessed at $874,700 and M205 is assessed at $899,900. Therefore, the subject is in line with units of the same model. We ask the board to please confirm the 2025 assessment at $919,700. Thank you.
Can I
Okay,
say
thank you.
something now?
No, sir,
It's
you'll
John
have a
Cracky.
chance when we're through, when we wrap up. So, okay, questions from board members now. Mr. Mendez.
For the county, I just want to confirm that I'm hearing this correctly. The appellant cites unit 305 as a comparable because it's a similar unit, but you guys are saying that it does not have a added floor value. So let's say 305 was on the same floor as the appellant's unit. Would we add $50,000 to that assessed value? So it'd be assessed more if it was on the same floor as the appellant.
Yeah, so our floor adjustments currently start on the 4th floor for the Mercer building. Floors 2 and 3 have no value. If like you said, if it were on the 5th, yeah, I would have that plus 50,000.
Okay, that's understandable. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from board members? Mr. Yates.
To the appellant, we're talking about the floor adjustments and we're looking, and you brought up 305, but do you recognize that 405, the value of that, which is one of the comps the county used, identical unit, difference of parking and a fireplace, but do you recognize the value that's coming up out of the identical unit 1 floor below you?
Mr. Crutching? Can you turn your microphone on, Mr. Crutching? I don't know if we've lost Mr. Crutching or not. Rosa, can you turn his microphone on?
I did.
Well, Mark, I'm not sure we're going to get an answer to that.
No.
It is a part of the county's presentation, so hopefully he did read that. So any other questions? No. Okay, Ms. Tellery, if you take a minute to wrap up then.
Sure. The change in assessment value is not due to market value, but rather due to equalization corrections. Before, these values were scattered and provided no uniformity to units on the same floor. Although the appellant brings up 2 units that saw a decrease, please keep in mind that the subject unit was not the only unit that increased in order to apply this correction. Unit M405 also increased after applying its new floor adjustment. This correction was necessary so that the subject would be assessed in an equalized manner in regards to similar units. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Crutching, are you on? You have 1 minute to wrap up, sir.
I think he logged off. He might be trying to call again.
All right, let's give him a minute. All right, a minute has passed. I guess we don't have Mr. Kutching to make his final wrap-ups, so it is now among the board based on the presentation. Mr. Yates.
I think the county did a very good job at explaining the differences and the adjustments, and I can find no flaw with what they've done.
There he
Okay,
is.
wait 1 second, just in
There
case
he
this
is.
is, it's him?
Yes. I'm letting
Mr.
him.
Kutching?
Hello?
Yeah,
Yes.
you can take 1 minute to wrap up, sir. Tell us any final
Okay, yeah.
comments.
I was asked, I believe, if I knew that the unit 405 was appraised the same value of mine. And my answer to that is yes, I do. And if I was him, I'd be here, sitting here next to me, asking to have it reduced based on the other exact units. The reason he's not here is because he rents the unit. He doesn't live in the area. I think he lives in Texas. So he's not concerned about what the appraisal is because he'll just pass that on to his renters. Again, I would just go back and say, I heard the discussion. It was very complicated. I didn't understand about floor things and this, that, and everything. But I'll just go back to my basic premise, that is, there's two units that are exactly like mine. They're not comparables. They are exact replicas, and they are assessed significantly lower. One almost $29,000 lower. Another one $45,000 lower. And to me, that does not seem to be fair or equitable in any common sense. So I would ask and plead that you would consider that we got similar units here that are significantly less than mine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, now it's just among the board. Mr. Yates, you were saying?
No, I hear what the county's saying. I understand what they've talked about with the adjustments or the lack of adjustments on a couple of the lower floors that the appellants focused on. I did not look them up to see if there's what the parking space situation is or fireplaces, things like that that could also add to those adjustments. I can't fault the county on anything that they've done on this. At least seems like they've tried to make it all work for everybody. And they're continuing to do that and looking at the other floors.
Yeah, I would agree. And I mean, it sounds like they equalized that 205 and 305 just because there wasn't floor adjustments. And now the whole building is under one set of rules. And so it seems much more equalized and much more fair. So anything different, Mr. Penaranda or Mr. Mendez?
No, I agree with everything that was indicated, and I'm okay with the assessment the way it is.
Okay, would somebody like to make a motion? Mr. Yates?
I'll motion to confirm the county at the sorry.
919,
199,
700.
1700. Yes.
Okay, do I have a second? Okay, Mr. Mendez, all in favor?
Aye.
I oppose. Okay, it's unanimous, 4-0. The county's assessment of 919, 700 has been confirmed. Thank you both. That completes the agenda. The only other thing I have before we move to the commercial briefing is to make sure that the members have emails about signing minutes. If you could click on those and get those signed so Rosa can get those orders out to the owners and agents, that would be appreciated. Okay, does anybody else have any other business other than the commercial briefing?
Hmm.
Okay, so then the hearing portion of this is adjourning at 9:57, and we will reconvene next Tuesday, June 10th, virtually at 9 a.m. So for now, I will go ahead. So we've got board members. Rose, if you can tell us who else is in the room. I see Mr. Jordan is here. And then I assume, Derek, you've got some assessors with you.
Correct. We have the commercial
Okay,
team.
so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Derek. And then for the board members, they just emailed out the guidelines. So if you want to follow along, you can either listen or you can follow along. It's in your email. It's all yours, Derek.
All right. Thank you very much. Please let me know if you could see the slides that I'm presenting in Teams. You guys able to see the
Yes, we can see
PowerPoint?
it.
Okay, excellent.
Yes.
We appreciate your time. This is the 2025 commercial briefing. This briefing is meant for the commercial team to provide the Board of Equalization with updates on commercial properties and the changes that have occurred from 2024 to 2025 regarding commercial properties and the commercial valuation guidelines. We did email you a copy of those guidelines, and we're going to follow up this presentation with further information, including the presentation and any sources that we've cited throughout. So you will get more information on this. We're going to be walking through all of our commercial property types presented by the commercial team, and we're going to be introducing them now. You know me, I'm Derek Dubay, the assessor for Arlington County, and our commercial team, which consists of Deidre Kelly, the supervisor, who's not present with us today, but I will have the other members who are present and presenting please present themselves.
Chris Chicas, commercial appraiser specializing in hotels and apartments.
Another Shuttlesworth, committed affordable apartments.
Lori Roskin, representing General Commercial.
Rob, you're muted.
Rob Peralta, commercial appraiser with the office properties in the county.
Jonathan Bynes, commercial appraiser with general commercial and apartments, and this will be my first BOE season here at Arlington.
Jonathan is new this year, joining us from Fairfax County. So we are going to go into, again, a brief presentation of changes with the commercial real estate. It's a lot of information. Please do raise hands and ask questions. And again, we're going to follow up this presentation with more information provided to you guys. So Chicas, you can start.
The total commercial tax base to include office, hotels, multifamily, general commercial, and new construction increased 0.1% from $41 billion to $41.1 billion in 2025. The commercial tax base represents 44% of the total 2024 real estate base. Multifamily residential property assessments, including new construction, grew by 4.2% in assessed value year over year. Office property assessments, including new construction, experienced an overall decrease of negative 11.1% assessed value, with no new construction value being contributed to this year. General commercial properties, including new construction, experienced a 2.6% increase in assessed value year over year, and hotel properties experienced an overall increase in assessed value of 22%. New construction adding $31.2 million or 1.7% to the value. The Department of Real Estate Assessment analyzed market data and actual income and expense information reported by commercial property owners from within the county for the 2025 guidelines. Income and expense information includes operating information such as rental income, vacancy, concessions, operating expenses, lease data, and parking. Income and expense surveys utilized for the 2025 guidelines were from January 1, 2023 through December 31st, 2023. For various reasons, certain I&E information will be excluded from the analysis. These reasons can include partial year expenses or income as reported. Building experienced high vacancy, total vacancy, or was vacant due to renovation. Operating expenses appeared to include non-operating expenses such as capital improvements. Tenant paid expenses directly, or tenant total expenses, whether high or low, were extreme outliers. Market analysis and research are conducted to determine cap rates, which are derived from arm's length market sales. The net operating income reported on income and expense statements submitted by property owners of commercial buildings in the county is also reviewed and analyzed to determine market capitalization rates. In addition, surveys and reports of capitalization rates from commercial real estate publications are reviewed to support the analysis. The indicated base capitalization rates are determined for each market sale by dividing the net operating income less real estate tax by the sales price. The properties that sold and their indicated base capitalization rates were analyzed to determine base capitalization rates for commercial properties for this tax year. The appropriate effective tax rate is loaded to the appropriate base capitalization rate for each commercial property. 2025 market apartment guideline changes. In regards to rents, apartment rents increased year over year across all property types, even with the new units coming online. Reported vacancy and concessions decreased across all property types. Gardens down 1%, mid-rise down 2%, high-rise properties also down 1%. Operating expenses increased year over year, largely across all property types. Largest increases seen in older buildings. Cap rates were increased by 30 basis points across all property types. There was a 20 basis point bump for those mid-rise and high-rise properties that were a bit older, 1969 and older.
Committed affordable apartments. We received a sufficient number of INEs to perform a meaningful analysis and to determine how these properties were trending in 2024. We noticed an upward trend in monthly rents, with the highest increases among one-bedroom units and two-bedroom units. One-bedroom units rose on average of 5%, and two-bedroom units rose by, on average, 8%. Efficiency units pretty much remained flat. Vacancies and concessions for mid-rise and high-rise apartments increased from 4 to 5%, and for garden-style apartments, it remained at 5%. On average, operating expenses increased by 6%. The most notable increases were among older properties built prior to 1970. These properties experienced a double-digit increases in operating expenses. And cap rates for garden apartments held steady. Mid-rise and high-rise apartments with the effective age of 1970 or higher saw an increase of 30 basis points, and properties with the effective age below 1970 increased by 20 basis points, similar to what happened to the market rate apartments.
Chris, you're muted.
Tax year 2025 cap rates used to value market rate garden apartments range from 6.05% to 6.8%, with cap rates used to value market rate mid-rise and high-rise ranging from 5.55 to 6.3. Tax rate 2025 cap rates used to value 100% committed affordable garden properties range from 6.5 to 7%, with cap rates used to value mid-rise and high-rise committed affordable properties ranging from 6.3 to 6.8. Multifamily sales in Arlington County that settled in the 2024 calendar year, in which the department was able to determine our estimated cap rate, showed a range of unloaded cap rates from 4 to 5.8%. The board members will also note we included some institutional surveys for cap rate support. Again, as you all know, we use the third quarters that come prior to the data valuation of January 1st. And here we have information from PwC, RERC, and CBRE. There were 15 recorded sales in 2024, up from 5 in 2023. The county board has approved 6 multifamily developments in 2024, along with 7 in 2023, 3 in 2022, and 5 in 2021. As of today's date, 3 multifamily projects have already been approved by the county board for 2025. 3 new multifamily projects came online as of January 1, 2025, with another 2 at various stages of construction set to deliver this year or early 2026.
Good morning. So basically, when analyzing the income and expense statements from operating year 2023 for the general commercial, I only saw a small handful that showed a correction, a downward correction in their rents. Generally speaking, overall, the rents increased 4 to 6%, and the vacancy for this year, it showed roughly a minimal change, and it was a slight increase for some of the property classes, such as the retail, restaurants, neighborhood centers, and small office. Keep in mind that for general commercial, the vacancy and collection is based off of the base rent only. And as we move on to the expenses showed a slight decrease in some of the property classes. 1 or 2 might have increased a little. Once again, I wanted to remind you that the expenses were developed off of the base rent only. And as for the capitalization rates, they remained the same. There was no change at all, except for small office. Small office increased overall by 50 basis points. The other change that was made to small office is we made a correction for or re-stratified the effective age for the small office. And this made some corrections across the board for this particular property class. And as you know, for the cost approach, primarily is used for the fast food, the banks, the service stations, auto dealerships, and the nursing homes. Now, according for the sales that occurred in 2024, we had 15 sales, and the bulk of these sales were commercial condos. There were actually 12 commercial condo sales. Once again, the cap rates, we analyzed these sales, and that the cap rates showed that there was no change for them. And once again, the vacancy increased primarily in the retail restaurants and the small office property class. Other property types, they remained unchanged, like the warehouse, the self-storage, and the medical commercial condominiums. So overall, the 2024 third quarter construction costs showed a small increase from last year's slight decrease of 2022. So just a little bit of up and down, as you can see for those. And pass this on to the next person.
All right, for the 2025 office guideline changes, we did see the rents remain mixed across all the submarkets. The majority of submarkets showed increase in the ranges. If you compare last year's to this year's guidelines, there's a difference in the ranges that we found, including the minimum and the maximum ranges. We did see that vacancy did remain, it actually showed an increase from 23 to 24%. We did keep our sliding scale at 8% at the minimum to 28%, with the threshold remaining at 28%. Parking, we did find that it decreased from last year about $100 from $1,200 in 2024 to $1,100 in 2025. Expenses overall increased from what we found in last year's analysis. We did see that expenses increased to $9.25 on average. With respect to capitalization rates, we did see our major change with our cap rates compared to last year. Last year's range was 7.05% to 9.75%. And then in the 2025 guidelines, we changed pretty much all the cap rates in all submarkets and with respect to each effective age. So that range now is 8.25% to 11%. And that equated to 100 to 125 basis point increase in all cap rates, depending on the effective age, like I mentioned. You'll see in the next slide where we have the comparison. That way it gives better illustration of what our changes are. With respect to the older properties, we did make more of a change where we increased cap rates of 125 basis points, whereas the new properties where we see that there's a flight to quality, we did a change of about 100 basis points. And in addition to that, we did include the 1975 to 1979 category to those higher cap rates. And we did find that there's the majority of the vacancy did lie in those older properties. So we did make that change compared to last year. So this slide is showing the different publications that we used in evaluating our cap rates. As you see, our range again is 8.25% to 11%. Corpac study had a range of 7.32% to 11%. RERC, their ranges range from 7.5 to 9.26. PwC, there was a range there from the current range in Northern Virginia is 6.75 to 10%. And then CBRE, that was the first half of 2024. We do see that there's in the Washington, D.C. area, 9% to, 9.5% to 10.75% for the Class A value added. And then in the Class A stabilized, we were at, in the Washington, D.C. area, 8.0% to 9.25%. Thank you.
I believe in some of those where I was listing base cap rates, we do provide the loaded cap rates as well in the information that you guys will receive. So that will be available.
2025 hotel changes. 2025 hotels saw a 25 basis point drop to cap rates for full service. Limited service and residential suites actually saw a 25 basis point increase. These actions reflected the stabilizing hospitality market as it returned to pre-pandemic performance levels. Second year in a row, Arlington's hotels led the state and DC market in average daily rate, occupancy, and revenue per available room. Besting the DC market, Fairfax, Tysons, Dulles, Alexandria, Falls Church, and the state as a whole, proving the robustness of the county's hospitality's offerings and its location provide for a strong hotel marketplace. Only one hotel sale in 2024, one in 23, one in 2022, and two in 2021. A new hotel, Hilton at the Keys in Roslyn, is finalizing construction, set to open some point this year, with another property receiving redevelopment entitlements to build a new hotel in 2023. We have some cap rate support, again, similar to the multifamily. We'll rely upon third quarter reports from PwC and RERC. You can see, again, they list a bit more details in regards to some of the different service types, full service, limited service, upscale, select service, etc. And again, we tried to regionalize that for ourselves so that we are, again, looking apples to apples.
All right, commercial land for apartments, high-rise, mid-rise land in the metro corridors within half-mile walking distance of a metro station was $78,000 a unit. The non-metro corridors, more than half-mile walk from the metro station was $65,000 per unit. The 100% committed affordable, regardless of proximity to the metro, was $60,000 per unit. For garden land apartments, garden properties were valued using a per square foot rate, which varies per location and subsequent zoning. The office for the metro corridors was $60 FAR. Non-metro corridors were $50 FAR. Hotels, $50,000 per key. General commercial properties are valued using a per square foot rate, which varies per location as subsequent zoning. Overall, land rates were unchanged for 2025, with the exception of commercial condominium land values. Following the residential condo land analysis from 2021, all commercial condo land values were updated. Please refer to charts in the 2025 commercial guidebook on page 32. And let's see. Special exemptions for development uses approved by the county board, including 4.1 site plans, form-based code review projects, unified commercial mixed-use development, and use permit are valued via the board-approved density, which is then calculated at the applicable land rate that is in effect as of January 1st. An interim improvement value may also be applied to represent the improvement to the land. Those special exemptions will have a predetermined expiration date in place upon initial acceptance by the county board. The approvals may be extended upon request of the owner or on occasion by action of the Virginia General Assembly, as was done in recent years with the passage of Virginia Code 15.2-2209.11. Let's see here. Property owners can request that their special exemption approvals be rescinded by the county board. Andrea noted that an owner successfully had their approval rescinded in May of 2024.
Okay, for the mall notes, the only notable thing to comment about this is that the capitalization rates increased 10 to 15 basis points across the board. West Coast and Costco were the ones that increased at 15 basis points. And we were following the RERC and the PWC second and third quarter publications. Thanks.
And in summary, hopefully we were able to give you guys a quick highlight as to the changes from 2024 to 2025. If you do have any questions for us, we're happy to answer them now. And we're also going to be sending you guys more information. We did send you the commercial guidebook itself, which has references to the sources that we're discussing today and referring to. So we will be providing some more information following this meeting. And commercial cases begin next week on the 10th.
Any questions from board members? I myself have to kind of go back and read all this. I may have questions that I may
Certainly
ask at a later date, but I'm more of a visual, so it's really, I followed along, but I definitely need to read it. But go ahead, Mr. Yates, you had a question?
Derek, I'm impressed with what you've come up with, and FARs and cap rates are based on what you've seen in the market now in Arlington. To the best, barring the fact there was one of something, etc.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, we try to list and research as many sources and publications as we can and do our due diligence on the market itself with all the sales for each, property type, and pass that information over to you guys. And you'll see this information will be included in the cases itself. So we'll reference that, and we'll be able to answer questions to any of this information at that time. We'll also be meeting with and have been meeting with appellants and agents to provide information as well, make sure that we're communicating on that front.
Good.
Okay, anything else from board members? No? Okay, anything else, Derek?
That's it for us. We'll see you guys next week.
All right, well, welcome back, everybody. And then certainly welcome to our newest, Mr. Burns. We look forward to working with you. Whatever they've told you, it's not true. We're very easy to work with.
All right.
All good things.
Oh, good. Okay, then everybody certainly read up on it, and we will be back next Tuesday and reconvene on June 10th. So we totally stand adjourned here at 10:21.
Thank you all.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Okay.